So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live people asking questions and joining in. I'm working in the Daydreams colour book by Hannah Carlson. I decided to do these stars have inspired me to do a darker background, and I don't normally do backgrounds, so I thought on this side I would practice. So on some of the fish I'm going to do darker near the actual subject and working out to be paler, and then sometimes being paler working so that it's darker, and see what the difference is and see which I like best, because I don't normally do backgrounds. I'm a bit of a chicken, so I thought I'd have a bit of a play. And I love this indigo P360 Derwent pastel pencil. I've used it in the Harry Potter page for all the really darks and dark shadows, and I really like it. It's a very, very nice shadow, and it's not black, so I love it for that. And then I've just recently used it in the Imagimorphia it's a sheet, which you can't find the page. There it is, I think. Oops. Very subtle colours, but I love them. But I've used the same indigo for the clouds, so they're kind of a cold grey, but they're not black, and I really like that. So that's inspired me to kind of do a very dark, cold background, as would be, and I just shut the oh no, I didn't. It's okay. I don't know what I'm doing that. I've set this one as I've gone along, so it doesn't need the. It's all set. Although it's pastel pencil, it's been blended, and then I've used a very damp, very dry brush, just damp, to go over the top, which makes it a watercolour. And then when it dries, it's set. So it's a pastel. So you get this gorgeous pale pastel colours, but it's set as a watercolour and it's flat. So I really like that. So I'm enjoying actually playing about in that particular book. So I've got the Indigo 360. So I'm going to have a bit of a play. So if I'm going to start at that side and work out, I then don't have to bother about fixing anything, because this one isn't fixed. This is just pastel pencil, so it has a protection layer of, it's actually tracing paper, but deli paper would be good. So welcome to Ustream. Just excuse the silly voice. I still got the remnants of my cough. So this is recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. And welcome to all my YouTubers, and thank you very much for subscribing towards me. And I'm glad that you're enjoying my videos, even though I do have a croaky voice. So as I'm going to start on this side. So I think this first one I'm just going to do, and this is just ordinary paper, so it's not pastel paper. So when I stroke a little bit of this colour onto this paper, it's kind of hanging on for grim life. If I do this, I can rub it off. It's just really, really hanging on for dear life. So you don't want very much. And if you can scribble, just scratch the surface very, very lightly, you can create a layer of colour. And you are not creating any dust. Nothing's moving. That's good for two reasons. One is you're not wasting any colour, because the dust is pure pastel colour. And the other one is it's not particularly good for you. Although I've never really had any bother, and I've got asthma. But I do have here a baby wipe that was at the end of the book, so when you blow, all the dust was on here, and there's hardly anything on there. Oops. There's a few tiny flecks of colour. I think actually that's probably more eraser than it is actual actual pastel dust. So I'm not using very much. I'll zoom in a second so you can have a look at what I'm doing, and if we just kind of make it fish shaped, it gives it a more realistic kind of effect. And I could actually move that paper clip because it's not going to go anywhere unless I wanted it to actually sit. And I probably couldn't get it to do that because it's not that much of a clip. Oh, hi Suzanne, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Thank you for stopping by. We're having a spot of Monday morning blues with Ustream again, but bless it, it's still hanging on in there just like me. So apologies for the croaky voice. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see exactly where I'm putting the colour. And hopefully I should be in focus, I think. I should be in focus. Somebody's doggy dreaming. This is under my feet is the said Alfie, the little boy. So that was very rough pastel colour. And as I've never done this before, so basically what I'm doing now is creating a stain. I'm staining that paper with, and different blending tools create different effects. I just wanted to see what this would look like. So if you do little tiny circular motions, you can you can get some nice effects, but again that's a little bit too much. That's just that little bit too much for me. Is this? This is just gently stroking. That's probably my easiest thing. So we're going to have to go with this. So you'll have to practice with your particular blender, and you can decide which you like best. Now normally my blender behaves itself, but I quite like that. That's kind of really soft. There's no kind of, it's just kind of nice and soft, isn't that? So I could live with that. I could live with that one. It does show all the lines up, but actually when you're near you can't see them. They don't look that bad up close. So let's see if we can get I think we were going darker. We were going darker, weren't we? Darker to lighter outside, I think. I mean, it would help if I put a point on the pencil. I will actually sharpen this one in a minute, I think. And then we can kind of That's probably slightly better. The problem I have is this is not pastel paper, and so the more you put on, the more you've got to drop off, basically, unless you're very clever and you can get it to stay almost immediately. Now you don't normally can do 2 layers because, again, as I say, there's nothing for it to grip to, but if you're clever and hope with a bit of luck, the second law of colour is actually blended into the first lot, so you just get that little bit stronger colour. I just turn that slightly like that, that's better. It's a little bit better angle for me. So again, if we just go right round again, very lightly, I really do not want to leave anything on top of the surface because that's just going to blow away. But you can practice with that, and then so this is all like a solid background almost. So for this particular paper you need about 2 layers. So that's what that one looks like. Just put it a little bit because it's just not into focus. Yes, Suzanne. Suzanne's Alfie's favourite person. Or Alfie's Suzanne's favourite person. Yes, he was very good today. Actually, he barked during the night because we had a bad night. My youngest girl was poorly all night, and he couldn't understand who was in the bathroom at this time of night, so he just barked. So I'm going to sharpen this pencil. I'll show you how to sharpen a pencil. So that isn't actually set. That I'll just erase this bit and then I'll set it, and then we don't have to worry about it. So if you go right, because it's blended, but it's not been set with water, you can go back in there and you can see just how big the actual thing. I couldn't get a smaller version of that, but you can go back in and take back everything you've gone over, which is quite good. There's a slight stain, but very little. And then we'll use the little brush because you can't brush it over. And then I need to go back into here because I've taken off too much, but again, that's not too difficult. So it kind of works quite okay, does that? So I can set the outside and not even bother to touch the inside of the fish, so that's quite good. Oh, hi Marie, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm just playing with the pencils, the Derwent pencils, and I'm practicing a bit of background, whether we like very dark or light to dark and dark around the image, but it's not going to look at anything until we've actually painted the fish. But I'm just setting this one. So I'm now making this pastel into a watercolour with a very, very, very dry brush, just barely damp, and that's allowing me to create a very, very, very soft watercolour. That's already been blended, and I'm setting it so when it dries now it's going to be like a dry watercolour. I think we've been all the way around. So that's now set, and you can just see the tiniest bit of light reflection when it's damp, and that shows you where you've been. And that's what you need, so it's just barely damp. So the other way of doing it is to push the colour, and each time you never want to be up to the line because that's what everything else does. And again, I'm not really pushing in, pushing down, because I don't want particles of dust. I want every scrap of colour on the page. So if I scribbled down, I would just get dust. And then when I blew, the dust would just disappear. So I don't want to do that. The only thing I've got to remember is that if I put my hand on it, it will smudge. So I can do this. And then that allows me to get near this edge. Oopsie. And you can see where I've been twice because it doesn't like it. I've got particles of dust. If I try to make it any darker, I have particles of dust. And they're just going to be washed away. So I don't think anything moved then. I do want a kind of a flat coat if possible, because I'm going to use this one with a different method. I'm going to set this with water straight away. I'm going to blend it with a brush instead of blending it with a blending tool. So I'm going to make it into a watercolour and blend it straight away. So I would like just a flat, and there's no pressure on this at all. It's just skimming the top. If I was to scribble down, I would waste a lot of colour. So blue, and there's nothing much happening. I apologise for the silly voice, as I say, it's getting on my nerves. Not on your Nelly, not on your Nelly. Bree says she wants to sharpen my pencils. I think not. I'm going to sharpen it in a minute. Right, so I've got a damp brush now. So this is a damp brush, and immediately all that gorgeous, gorgeous pastel colour becomes a watercolour. So it's very similar to, well, it's exactly the same as the Inktense and the way I use the Derwent watercolours. In the Colin Thompson colouring book, you scribble down your colour, you take a damp brush, and you manipulate it where you want it, at the same time turning it from a pencil to a watercolour. But just as the Derwent watercolours, pencils, these become a watercolour, a bog standard watercolour. So once this is dried, it's set, but you can add a damp brush to it, like you can with watercolour, and it will become movable again. You can work with it again. It's a watercolour. This is why I should have been on the outside, because it's very difficult not to go over the lines, and you can push that. I don't know if you can see that I'm pushing the colour once it becomes vivid right to the edge, so I have a really nice edge of the fish. And I really would like to turn this if I could. So you're manipulating the colour, turning it into a watercolour. And I really don't want to be stroking it, I really want to be pushing it, but I can't get the angle right. You'll be pushing that dark colour there. And you've got a slightly damper brush for this because you've got to make it into a watercolour first. And now that's dried, but what you can do now is to go in there, manipulate this colour into a watercolour and push it about. So it now has become a watercolour. Oh, Suzanne says she's bought 5 pencil cases. They're going to order 5 rolls for next week. Is that the sleeves like these? Is that the sleeves? I love the sleeves. I've actually ordered some more pencils. I found the original set of pastel colours on eBay because they don't make them anymore. So I've got 72 of these coming, and these are all the very pale colours. So I'm going to have another art bag. So I've got all my pencils in one and all my others in another. Right, so I'm going to sharpen my pencil now. So let's have a look at the back of here. So again, it hasn't gone through. There's the least amount of water. And I'll just pan out and then. So the difference is that's blended and then set with water. That's not blended with, it's not blended, it's blended with the water. So it becomes instantly darker. I'm going to do all the different ones, but I'm just going to do this first of all. I'm just going to show you. Now that, let me have a look. That's completely dry and set. They both are. So I have And I'll do it on a piece of white paper. If you do it on a mat, it won't slip, but I'll do it on here so you can see. But I wouldn't put it on this because it can slip. So here we have hiding. Somewhere.
Drink.
Yes, but please don't. How's Sam?
She's asleep. She's been asleep.
Is she too hot? You've got to keep an eye on the temperature.
Just checked. She's seen that kind of once she's coming up.
Oh, okay. Well, you need to keep waking up to have a drink, really. Right, so what I do is I use this guard here, this guide, to roughly give me an indication of where I want to start. And I'm using this angle, not digging in. I'm sliding the blade across. Now, probably the best one for this. Now, I've seen people do this. We used to do this at college. This is how I used to use it at college. And this is how I probably would do it most of the time. If I'm in the car, I do this because I'm in total control. But I've been doing this for 30 odd years, nearly 40 years. So the best bet is the guard. Hold the pencil down with one hand, but so you can twist it with your two fingers. And using this mark here, slide across until you get to almost, this is actually, I'll zoom in, this is actually quite a good colour because you can see it through. Right, so you can see what I'm doing. So you keep sliding across until you've taken off the wood. You're not touching the blue colour, you're not touching the strip of colour inside at all. And you just keep going. Knock that out of the way. And you keep going until you get to your colour. Now, I'm going very slowly so you can see, but if you go this slowly, the slower the better. Lots of little slithers of paper, almost paper thin. And you're just taking it to that strip. And that's why you could, I mean, you can do it like this if you wanted. And then you just keep taking that little bit off. And this is the same for when you're doing eyeliner pencils, the old-fashioned eyeliner pencils. Yeah, you keep doing this because you want a lot of that, because otherwise you get a piece of wood in your eye. Right, so we've not touched, we've not wasted. And that's a bit of dust there, you see, that's colour. This is going to upset some people. But that's the end of my sharpening. So if you can see, there is a sharp edge on that. So if I wanted, I can still get a line. Now the one thing with these, you mustn't sharpen them with a pencil sharpener. If you did, you'll just shatter this. It's a pastel. Go on the website, they'll show you how to. You don't need a pencil guide if you don't want one. You just have hold of this, and if it's going to slip, it's going to slip away from you. You've got your thumb to guide you. You don't need that. You just got to make sure you don't poke yourself here. So, but you've still got to have a lot of control. Your thumb, this is just holding it. Your thumb is guiding it. That's what you're doing. And you're turning it and doing it carefully and gently. I wouldn't take any more off than I got off there. If you want a point, but there's no real reason, because I'll tell you in a second, but if you wanted a point, You could then put this over a little pot or a water dish for when you're mixing watercolours, and scrape to a point. I would do that with the Derwent, and I would do that with the watercolour pencils. Thank you, darling. There is no point doing it with pastel pencils. Absolutely no point whatsoever taking this any further. You're going to waste the colour, because the minute you get a sharp point and you draw with it, it's gone, because it's so soft. If you want to know what they're like, get a 6B or an 8B pencil. I think 8B is the softest, and try to keep a point with that, and you'll know exactly what it's like. The minute you do that, that point's gone. So there's no point in doing that. You're just going to waste your colour. All that colour there is going to be on your paper and not in the bin. Has anybody got any questions on that? Oh yes, Marie, it is. It's a lot better. Because I keep going on about this, and I don't want to cause any arguments. But when you put... I mean, I've got expensive ones. I've got Faber-Castell. I've got 3 Derwents. When you put a pencil into here and twist, that is a different composition to that, and that's with whether it's pencil, watercolor pencil, Inktense, whatever it is, that's different to this, and that's hitting the blade first. That's going to twist this before it gets to that. So what you're doing is twisting the color away from the pencil. Now a pencil is made by a strip of color, and then you've got a hollow, basically, and a hollow in 2 pieces of wood, and the strip of colour sits in that hollow, and when it's joined it has glue at one side and glue at the other, and that's what holds the strip in. But it's only a thin glue, it's not a fat glue, it's not a strong glue. So you're twisting your colour. Now if you've dropped your pencil and it's broken, it'll just twist and keep breaking. But the pastels are too soft to use this method. If you put this in one of these, it'll break there, so you'll twist it again, it'll break there, it'll break there, and you'll end up with no pencil in about a day. You've got to try and use a blade, but it's probably better with a Stanley blade, because you can retract that blade, and then if you've got children, there's no problem. So if anybody's got any more questions, pop them in caps, because I have to squint. So I'm throwing away this wood, and I'm not throwing away any colour, because I'm a tight Yorkshire lass. And all these have been the same. They've been sharpened, and when they get blunt, they will be done in exactly the same way. These pencils came like this. I've never sharpened them. I've sharpened 2 because that one was blunt. That one I've sharpened. I got these about a month ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, and that was broken. So I sharpened that one. The Derwents, the Inktense ones, again, you know, don't sharpen them. All you've got to remember is, before you start doing anything else, you get your eraser, you push that in there, you just hold it, you take your finger away and you push down. Because that means if it's going to slip, it's not going to go near your hand, it's just going to go on there. So you've got to think carefully. But Derwent do actually have a blade with it, but I would buy a Stanley knife for about £5 because it has a screw handle and it has sharp blades in the handle, so you can keep your blades safe as well. Everything's safe within the screwed handle, away from children. So that's quite good. And you get the blade out to use it, and you push down and retract the blade. I'd show you, but I can't find mine. Mine's disappeared. But I never use these. I've got to give them away, I think, somewhere. Send to the school or something. Don't know why I still have them, because I never use them. Has anybody got any questions? Oh, you're welcome. Hi, Muesli. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. Yeah, I found there was a 90 set which I'd love, but I just can't justify £90, £100. But I'm desperate because they don't make them anymore, so that's why I want a set. But these are lovely, vibrant colours. These are these colours here, so they're gorgeous. And this was fairly quick to do. You know, there's one colour there, one colour blended. There isn't 10 colours, there's just one. I mean, you can blend different colours if you want to, but I love that it's very quick in a colour book. So I'll go back to our fishies. And I don't actually need that because it's not set. So that's watered now. So that's a watercolour. So we were going to do light to dark, weren't we? So that way probably would be here. I'm just going to have to drink my tea because I'm going to start coughing. Excuse me. Can't seem to shade. Oh dear. Oh, I've just realised something. I've been on the wrong microphone all this time. You silly woman. Oh. Sorry if you can hear me cough. You're not supposed to hear me cough. Now you can hear me. Sorry. I've been on the wrong microphone. Sorry. I'm just having a coughing fit. I'll be back in a minute. I shouldn't have any sound at all. I turned it off. Sorry, Suzanne. I've been on the wrong microphone. I should be on my microphone, my headset. I've been wearing a headset for nothing. Sorry, Suzanne. I'm doing Derwent pastels. The reason I did that is because I have coughing fits because I've got a chest infection, and I thought I couldn't get away from the microwave quick enough. Microphone. Excuse me. So that's why I'm drinking tea constantly. But I was getting withdrawal symptoms because I hadn't made a video for a week. So I'm working with the Derwent pastel pencils, and I'm practicing with backgrounds because I wanted to have a go with this starry background, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to have lighter or darker next to the actual fish. So I've had to sharpen my pencil because it was getting rather blunt. So this one I was going to go here. So this one I'm going to do differently. Um, I'm going to do, and again, I don't want any pencil lines, but I don't want any dust. I just want a light dusting is how I can explain it. Because if you start to scribble, all you'll get is a lot of dust, and you'll just blow the dust away, and that's all your colour gone. So it's going to be a bit awkward to get into there, but what I want to do with this one is again use the blending tool. I do hope not. Oh, you think the other mic's better? It's only because I can't shout. I'll turn it up. Is that better? Is that any better? It's just I just can't really shout. So what I'm going to do with that, it, I did turn it down because the lady said it was too loud. They were £100. Yes, they were the older ones, and they were a set of 90. This one is a set of 90. And what they have is there's only 30 colours, but they have three tones. They have a faint, a deep, and a bold. So that one's like terracotta. So those are terracotta. That's terracotta bold. That's terracotta F for faint. And it's this particular set is for portraiture. The one I've got, the 36. Um, so there's a burnt umber. There's a burnt umber D, which is dark, and then there's a burnt umber F for faint. So you only get 30 colours, but you get three of each, so there's 90. The new set of Derwent are more vibrant, and they're very similar to the other colours. You have the yellows. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Hiding. You've got your yellows, oranges, reds, pinks, purples, and if I show you that end, and what the lovely thing about these is whatever colour you see on the end is the colour you get, because these are the nearest thing to pure pigment you can get, because there's only the tiniest amount of binder just holding the pastel together, and that's why pastelists like it, because it's nearest you can get to pure colour. But the 72 they've brought out now a fab, and that's what I use for this one here. The mice, the beautiful colours. There's only one colour here, but I've got 10 shades. And then if you want to do a deeper shade, you go back in it again. So that's what I love about them. I don't know if it's the portrait set. My tin has actually gone down to the caravan. I had a tin of 36, and it says the port for portraiture. But the others I've seen, in fact, I can show you here. Look, that's mine, and mine says for portraiture. It might not, and it has the ballerina on. But this is a very old set, maybe 15, 20 years, maybe since I've had mine. It's before the girls were born, and I'd forgotten about them. And then my daughter did her art
O-level last year, and she used them, and that's the first time they've ever been used. And then a couple of weeks ago, my hand was quite bad, and I can't use my thumb, so I couldn't even use the Derwent watercolor pencils or the Ink 10s. So I was having a play in this book um, with the little mushroom, with a set of pastels that I have, because I did my degree about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So I was using proper pastels, but they are actually about as thick as your finger, so they'll be no good for this. And then, of course, 3 o'clock in the morning, the Amazon gremlin. That's actually pastel, proper pastels. And of course, you can see I went over the line because it was very difficult to get a very fine line with little fat chunky pastels. But I love the colours, and so I decided they're completely different to watercolour pencils and ink tents. So the Amazon Gremlin pressed the buy button, and especially for the next day, 72 beautiful, gorgeous, vibrant pastel colours arrived from nowhere. It's the portrait set. You probably won't find the portrait set. I have been looking and I can't find it, but I have found a set of 90. But I will warn you, these are easier to use. The older set, and that's why they've changed. They changed it not because it worked. They've changed it because these, if you can notice on here, everything it touches, it's like dust. These are like proper pastels, and they just disintegrate. These don't. There's not a mark on here, or there's a little mark, but there's hardly anything because they've made them a little bit stronger and they've made them more vibrant colours. These are very, very, very pale. I mean, the purple on the Imagimorphia, you can't even see it. But it depends what you want. You can still get pale colours. I mean, I've just done this one. I'm working in this one. Oopsie. This is with the Derwent colours, the new ones. Suzanne knows about the gremlin. It's a naughty gremlin. Let me just pan out a minute and have a waffle. So is the sound better because this is the microphone? This is my microphone. So these are the beautiful colours, and these are just used very softly. You can get them a lot more vibrant than this. But these are the colours I've been using this morning out of that set. So you don't really need the pale colour, it's just that I'm just a bit obsessive because I have to have the full set. But I'm only buying them because I can't use anything else. And I'm a bit worried. I've got my Logitech, my UG tablet, but I can't use anything else. I've had to give everything else away. So the only reason I've bought the pastels is I can still use them because my thumb won't work, so I can't manipulate a pencil with any accuracy. But these pencils, I'm just scratching across the top. I'm not using the thumb. So that's the reason I bought them. I haven't bought them because I could have everything else. I've had the Derwent watercolour pencils 20 odd years, in fact, maybe more, when they first came out. I wonder if I'm on the right one. I'm supposed to be. Yes, I am on the right one. Although it doesn't look like it's doing anything now. Wait a minute. I did turn it up because when I coughed, I thought it would drive everybody potty. Yeah, you see, the other thing, I had a complaint. A lady said that that should be a lot louder. Excuse me. but I didn't want you to hear me drinking the tea. The lady said that twice she said, and I don't know if it's any better, I think it is, that I sounded like I was in a toilet bowl when I was recording. But the Logitech is normally quite good. So I bought the microphone so that Alfie's barking wasn't as loud, and you could just hear my voice probably than anything else. That's what I thought. Suzanne. I know, but you see, I don't work, so I can't justify that. I don't work. Suzanne says, no, actually, oh, he is. He's asleep on my feet. He is. He's asleep under the desk. I don't know where the other ones are. So this isn't set. So what I wanted to do, and again, you need to turn your book round. So in the great scheme of things, my desk had nothing on it, but it's. So what I want to do is to smush this, and then it'll get paler as it gets nearer. And it worked for these. It worked in the Imagimorphia when I was doing the clouds. I put a little bit of colour and smushed it round, and then I took the eraser, the electric eraser, and I took and I put a highlight in it. So that's what you can do with this, is you can kind of give it this pale kind of thing here, and a bit of a stain. And all you're doing really is actually staining the paper. When you use professional pastel paper, it has a tooth. You are actually depositing in the right place, so it looks like a proper painting, particles of coloured dust. And you have layers of particle coloured dust, and you end up with a beautiful portrait, or whatever you want to colour. You have a coloured image. But because this isn't pastel paper and it doesn't have a tooth, the only way we're getting it to stick is either by adding water or by blending. And by blending, we are making a stain. That's all I'm doing. It's just staining it, because you can actually still erase it if you want to. And again, I want to try and get paler near, and then that was one of the reasons I wanted to do this. So it's dark there, and it's getting extremely pale as it touches the fish. This is really difficult for me to do, actually, but we'll have a practice. It is in this angle anyway. So this is the other way of having darker around the fish and paler almost touching the fish. And so we've got this going on. So what we can do now is take the eraser. Have you got any more questions? Oh, Muesli says, I don't have a gremlin, I have an evil twin. Yeah. No, I just have a gremlin. I have a gremlin. I have the Amazon gremlin. But I was playing with the pastels and realised that if it wasn't for the fact that they were a little bit too dusty, I love the colours, I could stroke them across the page and I could still work, still do some artwork, because I was a bit worried that I couldn't do any more artwork. I think I'm pressing too hard with this as well. And I'm still unsure whether the thumb is actually going to come back. So the gremlin was hovering for a good couple of hours before it pressed the buy button. But it was really an only way of me colouring in, really. So again, you can take this. You do use a lot of eraser if you're using it as a highlighter, but you can get some good effects. So this is a bit of a play. And I've got quite a lot on there, so I'm actually going to... I've got to remember that it's not... that these can be rubbed because they've got water to them, and they are now steadfast. They are fast. This is still not fast. That will still rub off if I wanted it to. So I could leave it like that, or I could just put a damp brush to it, and it would be set. So if this was in the middle of the ocean, you would have a very dark ocean like here, but around every fish there would be like a halo. And as I say, just a little bit of a damp brush, just to touch and basically make every scrap of that dust, even though now it's a smudge, it's just a stain, it's going to make everything set, so it's not going to go anywhere. So technically I've made it into a watercolour, so I've got kind of a halo around it. So there's different ways of doing things, and I couldn't remember how I'd like the jellyfish to look, so I thought I'd play with this particular one. Has anybody else got any questions? Yes, birthdays are normally quite good, but I think I'm about 5 birthdays and 3 Christmases ahead. I don't think I'm going to live long enough to outlive my birthday presents, if that makes sense. Yes, it's all Alfie's fault. Blame Alfie. I keep saying I don't need any more colour books either, but the gremlin keeps pressing the buy button. And the reason I bought the pastels actually was because of the Bennett Klein books. So it's all... Oh, I can turn... Oops, I'm turning round in my new studio. Yay! If I can find the Bennett Klein books. And I have to say, and I don't mean this derogatory because it's just different, I was a little bit disappointed because I could have sworn these were hardback books, and when they arrived I suddenly panicked and thought, I just watercolour, and I watercolour on Bible pages, so I do thin pages, but I thought, oh my goodness, what on earth am I going to do? I've almost finished this one in Art Rage on my Digi thing, and I love it. I fix them with water muesli. That's what I was doing. That's what I just did. If you watch part 1 of and part 2, which I'll upload, of Imagimorphia, these are set with a very, very, very just damp brush. Almost no water on it at all. Just barely damp. And then you'll just see a little glistening, and you've got to be very careful and just go over everything once, because if you can't start to smush about, you'll make a watercolour, because you're basically turning the pastel into a watercolour and it will move. So once you've blended it, you can blend it 2 ways. You can either blend it with this, so this one particular one here in the Imagimorphia was blended with the blending tool, and then I went over the top with a damp brush, very, very dry damp brush, if that makes sense. In which other book did we do? What else did we, oh, in the in the kitten, which I'm going to have to put some music over it because again I got the wrong microphone. This was, the colour was added, and then I got a damp brush and I blended it with a damp brush and let it dry. Then it became fast. So there's two ways of doing it, but as you see, I quite like that, but I love the different way of the blending first. So I tend to blend first and then colour over with a damp brush. But there's two ways you can do it, and that's what I've just been doing in this book here with these fishes. Did that answer your question? Muse, did that answer your question, darling? But this isn't how they're supposed to be used. This is only how I use them. They are designed really for proper pastel paper. But if you just put a thin layer, so again, I blended that, and now that's steadfast. That was scribbled and then not blended. It was just used with watercolour, with the damp brush. So that made it really vibrant. That was blended and then had a damp brush over it. So it's more vibrant if you just use the colour and then you blend it and manipulate it and create your highlights with your brush. Very similar to the Derwent watercolour pencils and watercolouring that I invented. That's very similar. Is you just put a little bit of colour down and then you manipulate it with a paintbrush. That's probably the best way. So how you would do the I'm looking for the Bennett Klein book that I've started, because they were the ones that set me off. It's because they're thin black books that they've gone walkies. They've gone walkabouts. Which is a bit strange, because I'm halfway through 3 of them. I don't think I've started anything in characters, I'm pretty sure. But these pastels will go in here quite nicely. But I won't be using the damp brush, I don't think. I was probably going to have a go with the first one. If we have a practice one, I don't think we have we? I could try it on here and see what happens to the paper. I think it took me 10 hours to do this on my UG tablet. Oh, thank you. Yes, it is, isn't it? It is quite magical. Yeah. I don't like this page I've done this with, but I'm going to have to do something with it. I'm sure if I do the fishes, it'll look better. I'm just going to have a very quick look for my... Ah, they're here. I knew they were there. So you can't have an avalanche. So I do plan to go through all my books, and believe me, there are 1 or 2. This is the one I've used. So this is just pastel and blended. But these were the pale ones I had. I didn't have any others, and I fell in love with them because they were so pale. I wouldn't have normally made these colours up. I would have done them a lot brighter than that. So I really liked this. And there's a ballerina, I think, as well somewhere. Again, I haven't put the things in this particular one. And again, I wouldn't have chosen those colours. I would have chosen brighter colours. So I love the fact that this Bennett Klein book inspired me to just use pale pastel colours. Because I've got vibrant colours in lots of other books. So all these will be just pastel, and I don't really need this. And once the book is finished, I will take all these out and use them in the next one, and just shut the book, because it won't be opened that many times and it won't be mushed together. But I mean, that beautiful lavender colour there, the rose, I just love the colours. They are a bit flashed out because I've turned the colour up. I turned the colour up, so now everything looks really vivid when it's really pastel-y. In fact, I might leave that out and do a bit this afternoon of that one. Oh, he's got the complete blanket now. Bless him. So has anybody else got any questions? So there's going to be 6 more techniques to do, but I love the fact that they're set. But I wanted to do it on this particular page. I like the fact that it's set, and because you're not using a lot of water, this is very good quality paper. And the faces as well, that would be quite nice for the portraiture. But I want to do some toadstools, and I wanted to get some vivid red colours. I thought that would be quite good. But this I thought would be really nice with this particular, especially now I've sharpened it. I thought it would be quite nice. So we could possibly start and so most of the time I do without a thumb now, because I can't use my thumb. So there's no reason why you can't put another colour into there, or use a paler colour. This is ultramarine, but it's the F, so it's very pale. Yes, you could start putting other colours into there. Oops, and then blending them. That's not the blending tool. Just got to make sure that the blending tool is clean, because we don't want too much dirt in. Oh, little boy is awake. So you can push that, and then if you see that one there, it looks almost, oh, it looks completely different. So in fact, I might use the because it's a softer pastel, I'm actually going to use the indigo in the original set, and you can tell it's just a little bit softer, but it is a different colour. It's a slightly different colour, but it blends softer. It's a softer blend, and I don't know if I like all this difference of colour, but I suppose it makes it look more mystic, more mysterious, more mystic. Just put a little bit of colour down there. It's difficult for me to do this without having the thumb in the way. They're definitely softer pastels. And originally I was shocked and thought, oh no, they're fake, or I've made a mistake. But I appreciate them because they're more vibrant. The colours are brighter. So you've basically got a set of pastels that you would probably get in a set of proper pastels, but you've got them in a pencil, if that made a bit of sense. So I quite like this. I quite like this. I think we could maybe go a little bit. I suppose I should really have 2 colours, shouldn't I? I could be blending 2 colours. This is definitely a midnighty kind of colour though. I think so. It's a bit cool as well, but again, you don't know whether you're in the sky. I think I might use these two colours. I quite like them actually. I say I've never done this before, so we're all kind of clutching at straws kind of thing. Possibly a little bit of a blend would do quite nicely. So I'm just going to do this for a few moments just to get the hang of it. And tend to use your thumb a bit too much, so I'm not sure about it, but yeah, it's definitely like a cloudy, misty night, so it works quite well actually, I think. Yeah, I can imagine if you got better at it, it would be good. It would be good for skies as well, so yeah, I kind of like this. So I've gone over my hour, and I think DD's on soon, so I'm just pleased I've managed to be able to do a little bit of something, because it's getting a bit you see, I must be pressing on because I'm wasting pastel pencil now, so that's not good. But the problem is you can't see what I'm doing, because so I need to kind of rethink this particular kind of work. So I could possibly I might do this when I do the and take the camera from the top and use it on the tripod, because it's actually on the tripod now, because it's a different mechanism. So I actually quite like that. Looks quite nice having a bit of difference. So has anybody got any questions? Oh, Suzanne, have a good day at work. Oh, hi Kingo, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I think yeah, I'm sure she'll be on in a minute. I don't know what time are we on at the moment. So I'm just going to finish. I'm going to finish at this, and then what I'll probably do is, if it starts to work out, I'll finish it off with the little tripod sideways, and then you can't. Doesn't matter about the thumb, kind of thing. I think that might be the way forward. But I'm going to have a bit of a play this afternoon. I might leave this particular one and work. I've just seen, I'd forgotten about the characters book. I think we might have to have a little bit of a play in here. Yeah, I think the pencils are coming out, or rather, they're not going away. Oh, that background would look quite nice on there, wouldn't it? With pale blue fluffy clouds. Right, I think we'll do that, and a bright red car or a bright blue car. Ooh, right. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for watching on YouTube. And I'm going to be carrying on with part 2 of. And I put little tags on so I know where I am. Says she. Of the jellyfish background. Thank you for watching.